I'd like to welcome everyone to the City of Quinte West Committee of Adjustment meeting. The committee is made up of 5 members. I'm a public member. My name is Harm Zelstra, and I'll be the chair this evening. And on my immediate left is public member Doug Phillips, and on his left is public member Paul Lafferty, and on his left is public member David Jesse, and on our far left is Councillor Jim Allier. On my immediate right is Anne Marie Cunningham, Committee of Adjustment Coordinator, and on her right is Kelly West, Manager of Planning Services. Because this is a hearing under the Planning Act, when the committee gets to the applications for consideration, each application will be brought up in the order listed on the agenda with an opportunity for public input given prior to discussion and consideration by the committee. If you wish to make a comment, please raise your hand to be recognized by the chair. Consent decisions made tonight will have a last day of appeal of April the 3rd, 2025. Minor variance decisions made tonight will have a last day of appeal of April the 2nd, 2025. If anyone wishes to receive a copy of one of the notices of decision, please use the pad of paper provided by the sign-in sheet to indicate your name, mailing address, or email address and which decision you would like a copy of, and it will be sent to you. If anyone has not signed in on the sign-in sheet, please do so, as this is issued for the minutes of the meeting. Could I have any disclosures of pecuniary interest on the agenda? Hearing none. Approval of the agenda for this evening. Moved by David, seconded by Jim. All in favor? Carried. And approval of the minutes of February the 13th. Moved by Doug and seconded by Paul. All in favor? Carried. First application is consent application B11-25M. The owners are Gertrude Molker and the estate of Peter Molker. The agent is Kim DeFosse. The legal description is part lot 17, concession 5. The address is added to 176 Teal Road in Murray Ward. The purpose of the application is to sever a parcel of land for lot addition purposes to be added to the adjoining property. The severed portion would have no frontage, a depth of 45.7 meters by 30.5 meters, and total area of 0.14 hectares. And the retained would have a frontage of 214.2 meters, a depth of 965 meters, and total area of 46.3 hectares. Any comments or concerns from the public regarding this application? Pardon, sir?
What type of building will be built on the property?
There'll be, from what I understand, it's just a lot addition, so.
Plans to build?
No. There's Mr. DeFosse right there. You are looking at the first application, right? No?
No, my property backs onto it, so I'm just interested in what's going to be happening.
On Teal Road?
Oh, different one? Never mind.
I thought you were looking at a different one there. Yeah. Okay. Any comments or concerns from the committee members regarding this application?
Move the recommendation as presented, Mr. Chair.
Okay, moved by Jim and seconded by David. That application B11-25M by Gertrude Molker and the estate of Peter Molker. Kim DeFosse, agent, to sever a parcel of land for lot addition purposes to be added to 176 Teal Road, Part Lot 17, Concession 5 in the former township of Murray is hereby approved, subject to the following conditions. One, that a registered survey for the severed parcel be submitted to the city. Two, that a draft transfer for the severed parcel be submitted to the city. Three, that the tax account for the subject property be paid up to date. Four, that the severed parcel be deeded as a lot addition to the recipient property, and the applicant's lawyer submit an undertaking to register consolidation on title, given the effect of the lot addition. And five, that the applicant's lawyer submit a legal opinion verifying that the lot addition lands will merge on title with the recipient parcel under the Planning Act. And six, that a zoning bylaw amendment be in effect for the severed lands pursuant to the Planning Act. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. The next application is consent application B12-25M. The owners are Mark and Patricia Caparis. There's no agent for them. Are they here this evening? Okay, thank you. Description, legal descriptions, Part Lot 17, Concession 1. The address is 576 2nd Dug Hill Road in Murray Ward.
Lot 7, you said 17.
Hmm?
You said 17, it's lot 7.
It's 17?
No, 7, you said 7.
Oh, 7, pardon me. Legal description is 7, not 17. That's why we have her here, to keep an eye on us. It is in the Murray Ward, though, right?
It is.
Okay, the purpose of the application is to sever a parcel of land which would create one new vacant lot. The severed would have a frontage of 72.69 meters, a depth of 200.23 meters, and total area of 1.88 hectares. The retained would have a frontage of 20.3 meters and a depth of 160.66 meters, and total area of 2.63 hectares.
Can I make a comment? Can I just make a comment about that condition?
Okay.
Just a comment for everyone's information. In the staff report that was posted on the website, there was an error in the Public Works comments. They referred to a new entrance being required for the retained lands, which is the existing house. That is incorrect. They're requesting a new entrance for the severed parcel that be moved to the northernmost portion of the property. And that is recommended as a condition of consent. So it was just an error in the Public Works request.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or concerns from the public regarding this application?
This is
No? Okay.
No, my concern is just
Come and introduce yourself. You're going to be in the minutes.
So my name is Tony Staden. I live at 16 Golden Russet, which kind of backs onto that property like a big piece. So I'm just curious if there's any plans in building,
As
for building.
Kelly, do you have any information on what's happening with that, other than single?
Other than a single-family dwelling is what is in front of the committee at this time. We don't have any information of any future plans down the road. That said, the property is within the urban area, and we do have policies related to higher density growth in that area. So, but at this time, we don't have
So
any
it's
information.
just a single-family dwelling, right? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other comments or concerns, sir? Mr. O'Leary, right? Yeah.
Hi, Tim Larry. My wife and I live on a piece of property which backs onto the property in question. So the first question I have is about the protection of the forested lands. Initially, when we built, we were informed that this land would not be developed, and having those forested lands is important to us, and I'm just wondering whether that is covered under the possible severance.
I'll refer that to Kelly. She pretty much answered that question, right? So it's a single-family
So
dwelling?
they can do whatever they would like if this is passed.
Under a single-family dwelling restriction,
Okay.
yeah.
My second question is more along the lines of being someone who walks along Second Dug Hill Road, and with the increased traffic due to the nature of development along there and with commercial, with Walmart, any plans in terms of how that stretch of land might be structured in protection for a possible family living there, as well as for people who wish to walk along there? Because we all know that it's very busy.
Kelly, I'll refer that to you as well.
So in terms of the recommendations from Public Works, as Anne Marie just mentioned, they're recommending a driveway, a new driveway be placed further north on the proposed severed lot in order to gain those sight lines for cars coming out of that driveway. In terms of a bigger community thing, I think you're referring to maybe like a sidewalk.
Possibly?
I don't think that, don't want to speak for Public Works, but I don't think that there are any plans at this time right now to put a sidewalk up north of Dundas Street, or Highway 2, I guess, sorry. Where they're looking at urbanizing south of Highway 2 on Second Dug, but at this time, there's no talk right now of north of.
So nothing on the north?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir?
My name's Steve Toffmeyer. I'm also backing onto the severed property, or the
Yep.
request for the severed property. I want to first thank you for the appreciation that public input is permissible, and it offers neighbors an opportunity to kind of voice their concerns. We are also concerned about what may occur with that particular lot, simply because of the backing onto it and having such a nice wooded area currently beside the cemetery. So we are concerned about whether it's building or one house, and you've already clarified that, which I appreciate. It is a treed lot, so when somebody has a building permit, are they permitted to essentially decimate or cut off all of the trees on the property?
Yeah, Quinte West does not have a tree cutting bylaw at all, so
So whoever owns it, they can
anybody who
cut
owns it
all
can
down.
clear cut it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously that affects the privacy and the enjoyment of our own property, so that was our concern. My understanding is there's also an environmental concern with that particular property because of some species that actually habitate on it. So I don't know whether that's been looked at. I did notice that Lower Trent Conservation Authority had no issue with the
issues, no.
severance. But I don't know whether they would just look at water flow or whether they actually look at the environment in terms of species that live there. So that's something that I would question as well. The other piece I wanted to say was that decades ago, when that lot was previously severed and 3 lots were severed off that space, it created 4 driveways along that steep hill of Second Dug Hill. Since that time, of course, we've got the property that, the subdivision that was created directly across from Walmart itself, as well as Brookshire Meadows further north on Second Dug Hill, which has created a huge amount of traffic along that road, which previously wasn't the case. Now we've got that steep hill and tons of traffic on it. So the concern is for the fact that there are no shoulders, no sidewalks, no means of being able to walk along that road when people live along it. It was already mentioned that it's an urban area. My understanding is that this severance would then return this particular lot not to urban but to rural residential, because there's not going to be accessibility for water or sewer. Is that what I understood from the report?
So the name rural residential is maybe a bit of misnomer in this case. It will still be in our official plan designated as a settlement area property. So therefore, future development of a more urban style could potentially be allowed on that piece of property. But as you mentioned about species and access and all of those things, those would all have to be studied for a more intensive kind of development, and reviewed by, internal staff that have that expertise and whatnot, and that would come forward to a different committee, not this committee. It would come through to our planning advisory committee.
Okay, I appreciate that. In terms of that, the busyness of Second Dug Hill Road and the tragedy we already experienced on the southern portion of the road because people were walking on it at night, the concern is obviously there that additional habitation or larger, more people habitating on it and not having that urban piece to it. No lighting, no shoulders, no sidewalks is dangerous. But the other piece that I wanted to speak to, as a former school principal, I'd often have parents come to me to ask about bus stops, where the kids are being picked up. And in a rural setting, where there is no accessibility or means to be able to walk along the road, it was always the case that the bus would have to stop at the driveway. In looking at that particular access point, the northernmost point, it's very close to the rise, the top of that rise. So if a bus were parked there, directly at that particular point, any vehicles that are coming over the top of the hill would not see that bus until they had crested the hill, which is closer to the cemetery entrance. That's approximately, well, I'd say it's less than 100 meters from that point to where that bus would be stopped, which really isn't enough stopping point in wintertime on a road that's very narrow for any vehicles to be able to do. So from my point as an administrator, I'd be a little concerned about putting that particular access point into place. In previous experience, I would say that would be a real problem for any bus company to say, yeah, I'd stop there and pick up a child. They would probably insist the child had to walk up to the crest of the hill. So now what we're saying is that if there's a family living there and they're asking the children to walk along the road that doesn't have shoulders and doesn't have sidewalks and doesn't have lighting further up the road, we're creating a really dangerous situation that I think the city, it's incumbent kind of upon you guys to be able to foresee those kinds of problems occurring. So that would be my only point around that part of it. I'm really not comfortable with either of those options, and I hope that you guys will consider them carefully before you approve the severance. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very valid points, I must say.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add 2 points. I can take that back certainly to Public Works. I can relate. I live on a hill similar to this. My sons had to either walk up to the top of that hill to get the bus or go down to the bottom of the hill and get it at the next stop. So I'm living that kind of scenario. But my other thought was that also for all the residents that are in that area, I mentioned about that there are no plans right now to urbanize the north side of Second Dug. If you guys really want that, I think you need to voice that to council through another committee, not this committee. They're hearing what your concerns are certainly on this application, but in the larger scale of it, and I look to Jim to make sure that I say the right name of the committee, the Environmental and Active Transportation Committee.
Active Transportation and Safety Committee, because they look at speed limits, they look at everything.
Yeah.
And then they review it, and there's OPP set on it, and then they bring a recommendation back to council as to what needs to be done or could be done. And lots of times it comes in as a budgetary thing because we've got to spend money. So it's best to do it, I guess if you want to put something together, I'd say do it through the first part of this year because we start looking at budgets in the early fall or whatever. And it's the same way, we were lucky we got that $11 million from the province when the election was coming up to help with the urbanization of the second half, the other half of Second Dug Hill Road. But I can only speak for one council member. I'm 13 of one of 13. I'm sure down the road, that road is going to have to be looked at. And then the other obstacle we got there is that CP narrow underpass there, and I know it's being looked at, and you know as well as I do when you drive through it, it's crumbling, so they're gonna have to do something with it before too long. So I think there's a lot of things in play here, but certainly bring all those concerns forward. It's certainly being a developed street just as much as or a road as it is to the south.
I think, Jim, you know that decades ago, you might have had 3 cars parked
Yeah.
at the train crossing when there was a train on it. Now you've got 12 to 15 from either side at any given point when a train is going through.
Yeah.
So it's much busier than.
Certainly the last thing we dealt there with was train whistles with the people, and we got that slowed down and stopped to some extent. I think there's the odd one still does it, so I'm told, but no, they're all valid concerns, and as that's developed, I'm sure down the road it's gonna have to be addressed. But I'm only one voice, and we need help to help spur these concerns on.
Exactly, like you need to bring them forward to council so that the rest of council is aware of that, or aware that the community is really wanting this, so that, as Jim said, when they're looking at the budget, they can sort of gauge and say what is a bigger priority, right?
Okay, we also have Kurt Morris joining us virtually. He sent us in an email addressing some of his concerns, and he was, I'll let him go through that. He's online there now, so go ahead, Mr. Morris.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm certainly sorry that I couldn't make it in person, couldn't get away from work in time, but and I'm glad that the committee and the community members here are mentioning how much work there is to do here, and this particular application may even be putting the cart before the horse. First off, I certainly with the Ontario election just recently. It's been an extremely busy time for a lot of us, and the folks that I'm working with haven't had a lot of time to spend on this. And I think with what we're talking about here, and there's still a lot of unanswered, answers to the questions here. I certainly think that this is an everlasting decision on a very sensitive parcel of land. I live at 572, which I'm the neighbor of where this proposed new driveway would be. I won't get into all the points that community members have already brought up, because it sounds like we'll put another report together for another section of council. But one thing I will ask is that this be deferred, just to give the folks that I've been working with a little bit more time to look at this. We are putting some good things together. So I'm waiting on a few documents, and unfortunately I couldn't pull those together for tonight. So I would ask for some patience. I don't think that, deferring this for, another 3 to 4 months and coming back to talk about it. And I could certainly present some concerns around the actual severance itself, and not just the safety items and things that my wife and I have witnessed, and 2 near fatalities this winter, and just this winter alone. So I appreciate the community member mentioning that hill and the dangers around it. As we sit and look out our front window, we did see 2 real close calls just this winter. So this is very concerning to us, and of course, raising children on this street. But I do need time. It's been a busy time in the world, certainly a busy time for me as part of the province. But living here and having this directly affect me and my family, I'm asking that this be deferred, just so that I can piece some things together, come back to you folks with some important information. 120 days, after talking to a couple of the professionals I was working with today, they've asked me to ask for 120 days. I might be able to pull this off in 90, but I'm wondering if this committee would be supportive of that. I don't think it's too much to ask, considering this isn't something that needs to or should happen overnight. I think we got to get it right. And with everything that everyone said here, I have even more concerns. There's a few things I haven't even thought of. So the initial question, and I'm sure it won't be answered tonight, is what is the intent of this severed property? May not get that answered tonight by the sounds of it. But I do think that it's fair to ask for this to be deferred, this particular application to be deferred, and I hope that you'll grant me that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any concerns from David?
I guess I'd be more interested to hear a basis for the grounds of deferral. Like, right now, it's just a request. The severance meets the requirements of the city. I'd need some type of justification on the deferral to really consider it.
Yeah, and I certainly, I can appreciate that. But the reality is it's time. And, you know, this, you know, it all happened fairly quick. Like I say, we're working through, we just got through a provincial election, and again, folks that typically show interest in these types of things, they work for all levels of government, and pulling those people in to have a look at this severance. There are certainly concerns just with this severance alone. Never mind all of the requirements that will come later. I'm just not sure, you know, why there has to be a rush on this particular application. When I'm fully admitting that, you know, I'm probably the most involved with this. My entire property, you know, is surrounded by this request. The news of the driveway probably moving more north now is news to me. I'm just looking back through documentation here that I don't even remember receiving that, so that is concerning as well. But it's just this is an entire community this affects, and I think in the essence of time, I'd like to spend a little bit more time with those folks and get some more opinions on this. And I'm not sure where a problem would lie with to defer this, because again, I just think we want to get it right. I'm not saying that severance won't or shouldn't happen, because obviously there's going to be a lot of work if this severance does move forward. But why take that step without, you know, permitting someone who's been a taxpayer here for 20 years, you know, certainly raised my family, encouraged my family to live here as taxpayers. And I think it's a fair request. Just simply, I'm asking for time, and just to defer this. And what I come back to you with, I think will be the answer to your question.
We need to have a motion for. Should we?
Ask if the others want to say anything, if Mr. Cooper's want to speak, their application.
Mr. Cabarrus, would you like to speak to this application? You're most affected by this, or Mrs., sorry. Didn't mean to pull rank.
Yes, hi, I'm Patricia Couperis, so I'm the owner of 576 Second Doug Hill Road right now. And I guess that we are just looking for the severance application to be granted. I don't really hear any reasoning why we need to defer it at this point. That question was ignored in the response that the election has happened, but that doesn't really affect my severance. And I don't understand that. My kids get on the bus every single day at 576 Second Doug Hill Road. It's about 8 meters further that this driveway is going to go in. My bus is canceled every time there is ice, snow, anything like that. I understand people have concerns, but the buses don't run if the weather is bad. They don't. Honestly, we are getting snow cancellation days because it might snow. So I understand that people have concerns about that, but living there, my 3 kids are here present today. They get on and off that bus every single day without problems on the hill. It's a normal bus stop. People have caution going over that hill, especially when they know the bus comes every single day at the exact same time. So, yeah, I guess we are excited about this severance. Right now, there's no building plans in process. There's no building plans in mind for that property. The intention is that the purchaser is going to continue to use the driveway to get to his house, which backs onto the property. So if that answers some questions further, I hope that's helpful. But yeah, that's about it for now.
Thank you. Do we, need a motion for deferral, if you'd like to do
Can I
that.
just comment there? I had my hand up there, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the applicant did forget to leave out a couple of details there, just that, the children have just started to take the bus this year from that location, and also, she did discuss a close call, with me not so long ago about her children. So I just don't want to leave that stuff out. I think it's stuff that, community members have already suggested, and I will suggest they were right, that there are lots of dangers here. Yeah, I mean, I know their property is for sale, and suggested they're off to the U.S. and it sounds like this is a severance that is being requested, so that I have no other terms. I guess you make a quick buck and then you leave the country and you head for Nashville, Tennessee, and the rest of us are left dealing with what we've got to deal with here, dealing with council and all of the grading and the well studies and all of that stuff that will come soon. But with this particular deferring that I'm requesting, again, I would ask even the applicant, what is the rush? Why can't we take a better look at this, work together, 90 to 120 days, 3 to 4 months? We take a look at this. Is it, is it right? Is it wrong? I think we just got to get it right. And again, because I don't have those other professionals' documents that I would have liked to have today, and she's right. Yeah, we just had the election, which was busy, and it did tie up my time as well as a lot of other people. It is a bit of an excuse for sure, and that's why I'm asking for this permission today.
Kelly, do you want to rebut?
So I'll just reiterate again that really there's no planning rationale put forward for the deferral. It does meet our policies for a consent. One of the conditions is that the property would be rezoned. We didn't specify it in the report, but likely the recommendation would be that the proposed severed parcel would be put into a holding zone so that any future development that was proposed, they'd have to do another rezoning and all the studies that would go along with that, based on the proposal that they're putting forward.
Okay. David, did you have something there?
I'd move that we approve. It meets the requirements, and then there is that secondary stage where during rezoning, all of these things can be addressed at that time.
So you move to
approve the severance.
approve, do I have a seconder? Seconded by Doug.
There's other panels to go
Yeah,
through before
yeah,
that.
yeah, there's other,
Gilman wants to speak again.
yes, sir.
Previously, Kelly said that that lot could be essentially decimated. All the trees cut down, all the, everything kind of done. Now you're saying that no, you have to be rezoned first? I don't understand.
So we don't have a tree cutting bylaw within the city, so anybody can cut down whatever trees they want on their own property. But the zoning, right now it's a D-zoning, so it just recognizes what was existing prior to the bylaw, the size, the shape, the frontage, that kind of thing. Now that we have this Planning Act application, we're changing what that parcel of land's going to look like. So we have to do a rezoning for the retained parcel with the existing house. We're recognizing it has a smaller frontage than what we would require under the bylaw. And then the other piece, because it does have the urban designation and could be built up in more dense than a single dwelling, but we need to do some studies on that property. They'll need to do probably an EIS if there are species at risk. I know that Mr. Morrison hasn't brought it up here, but I know that's one of his concerns. A traffic impact study would have to be done because it wouldn't just be a driveway now, it would be sort of a road possibly going into that parcel of land. That would also have to have a servicing study done because at this time, with just thinking of it as a single house, we are prepared to allow for services, private services on that single lot. However, if there was a proposal for something more dense, we would want that on public services. So a servicing study would have to go because no services at this time go up that far. And that, so all of those reports on that would come because we've got the holding symbol. We call it a holding symbol. It's just sort of a block right there so that we know that you have to fulfill all those studies before we can remove that hold. And then the depending on what kind of development it is, it might be a site plan requirement application, it might be a subdivision application, it depends.
So I guess I'm misunderstanding the report itself, because in the report I thought it stipulated that this severed piece would have to be rezoned as rural residential,
Yep,
which means that it would then only be allowed to have one.
that's correct, yep.
But
But
now you're talking about,
we're gonna put a hold on that. We're gonna put the holding symbol on that because,
you're going to plan to sever without rezoning?
no, the zoning comes after the severance. We always do the consent application and then the requirement for any zoning. So that will be next, and that will also get circulated to the neighborhood for comment. Doesn't come back to this committee, those rezoning applications go back to the planning advisory committee. Okay?
So the person that purchases the severed portion, whatever plan they have, they don't know if they will get whatever zoning for that plan, and they may just end up with a parcel of land that they can't use for their intended purpose. Is that how this works?
Could be, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Or could they make a condo on it? Like, that's what
If that's the proposal, that comes forward from whoever purchases it, then they have to do all of the studies. They'll come in, they'll talk to us. We will say, you need to do X, Y, and Z studies. You need to make this application. That's another whole public process. Like I said, it comes in and it will go to a different committee. If we deem it as complete and viable, all of the internal, Lower Trent Conservation would look at it. Our engineering department, our water, wastewater would look at it, and building would look at it. So you would get another public input session once if that type of development was to come forward.
Why wouldn't you do that now before even severing it? Because who in their right mind would buy a property not knowing whether they could have it done? Like, why wouldn't, because right now it's
Not for me to say what the motivations are.
No, but I just mean, like, if there's trees there that, you know, and there's species, bird species and so on, why wouldn't you have that stuff done now before you would even consider doing that? Because you don't know what the intention of the people are. And if they're selling their property, then they don't know what the intention of the people are, like, once they've sold it. And it seems kind of like not putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah, right now, we're just creating the lot. They want to sever the existing house off, sell the existing house, and sell the severed parcel. Right now, that's all we're doing at this meeting.
So all of our questions and all of our concerns will be addressed by another committee at another time in the future. If and when somebody puts a plan in place of what will happen.
Yeah.
Which means more applications and more money.
And more paperwork, and
More
more red
paperwork.
tape, and more time, and more questions.
Yeah,
More questions.
yeah,
then your property value goes down.
yeah. So
But that's an opinion. That's an opinion.
These homes are $1,000,000+ homes, you know, like.
we have a mover and a seconder to,
I had my hand up there again, if I could just add one final note. And you're right, Kelly, I didn't suggest the stuff about the species at risk simply because you've made it known that that will be for another day, and that's fine. We'll talk about the three species at risk at another day. But one thing I will suggest that just before you're quick to make this decision here is I have just had a quick chance there while the others were talking to go through the mail out that you sent out by Canada Post, and I just got a chance to look at all of the emailed stuff that I've sent out. And you're right, Kelly, there was an error on that particular proposed driveway. But I would suggest that that's reason to defer it alone, is that I don't have any information, I don't have any drawings. The drawing I have here just shows the existing entrance. And I had no idea, like I say, until now, you're dropping something new on me here with this driveway being to the north, which is my property. So again, I'll ask for that to be deferred, as there was an error in this and there was no correction sent out in the mail. I'm finding out today, and I think that's really unfair when you're talking about someone who lives to the north, and you've just suggested tonight that, yeah, we had to make a slight change because there was an error. I don't think that's fair for this to work that way, and just because of that alone, this should be deferred.
So just a correction, it's not an error. The error was Public Works using the term retained rather than severed. Sorry? The schedule only shows the existing. There happens to be sort of a bit of a cow patty route there on the property, right? Lots of times we sever lots, there's no entrance at all because it's a brand-new lot. So we don't know where that entrance might be. It might be dependent on where somebody wants to build their house and how they want to orient it and put their garage and that thing. So that's not typically something that we would have at this time for the committee to review. Public Works will.
But it's going to move north, Kelly, that's what I'm saying.
We're not ignoring it though, because Public Works has to issue an entrance permit. So whoever buys that property and wants to put in the proper entrance, they have to do it as a condition of this consent. So that's when they will review it. They'll review it for the sight lines on it. And if it's the cow patty route, sorry to use a non-technical term, but that's what always comes to my mind. If they're saying that's not an appropriate spot because it's too far up to the crest of the hill and it needs to be moved, then that's so be it. That's the negotiation that happens with the property owner and Public Works for that application. Mm-hmm.
Okay, getting back to the motion and second. Any other comments from the committee regarding the additional comments made?
Well, just in regards, and Kelly, I think has explained it, certainly Planning Advisory will be dealing with this when it comes forward. But there are several conditions on this that you'll be reading, and Kelly has kind of addressed the one. The applicant will have to apply for an entrance permit, and that'll be reviewed. And we also have a lot grading and drainage plan here that has to be engineered. That you'll read that. It's in quite technical terms. I'm not going to read it all, but there's quite a few recommendations that they'll have to be administered before this can go through. And if they aren't, it won't get passed. It'll be null and void down the road. So that the applicant has to do, which all our applications do. So. Certainly all the other things that Kelly has said is right. Having dealt with these in the past, there's always been concerns, and whether it's a species at risk or certain trees like butternut or something that's a protected tree, why those things will have to be addressed down the road. Right now, we don't know what the site plan is going to be of the building or anything, but as David has said here, it does comply, and the applicant certainly has rights, and if we turn it down, they can appeal our decision, and it can get overturned, actually. We have to look at both sides of it, so we just can't willy-nilly, because somebody thinks certain things aren't right, that we have to ignore them. We have to look at both sides, and each side of the application has rights, and so we have to look at it in that aspect.
Okay, so the motion. Moved by Jim, seconded by David, right?
David and Doug.
Oh, Douglas?
David.
Oh, David, sorry.
David and Doug.
It's been a while. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
You got to read the conditions.
Got to read the decision.
Oh, yep, sorry. After Jim said there's a whole bunch of conditions, I forgot all about them. Okay, that application B 12-25M by Mark and Patricia Couperis to sever a parcel of land at 576 Second Dug Hill Road, Part Lot 7, Concession 1, in the former township of Murray is hereby approved, subject to the following conditions. 1, that a registered survey for the severed parcel be submitted to the city. 2, that a draft transfer for the severed parcel be submitted to the city. 3, that the tax account for the subject property be paid up to date. 4, that a parcel or parcels of land measuring 10 meters from the center line of the road along the frontage and severed and retained lands along Second Dug Hill Road be conveyed for road widening purposes to the city at no cost to the satisfaction of Public Works. 5, that a lot grading and drainage plan prepared by a professional engineer be submitted to the satisfaction of the city, and that the applicant enter into an agreement with the city written and registered on title by the city solicitor at the applicant's cost, addressing the owner's obligation to notify any purchaser of the requirement to comply with the approved lot grading and drainage plan. 6, that the applicant apply for and subsequently obtain an approved access entrance permit for the severed lands and install the new entrance to the satisfaction of Public Works. 7, that a zoning bylaw amendment be in effect for the severed parcel and retained lands pursuant to the Planning Act. And 8, that the applicant convey an environmental easement registered on title in favor of CPKC rail line to the satisfaction of CPKC rail line, or provide documentation that demonstrates an environmental easement already exists. Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. The next application is consent application B13-25M, Clemensic Homes Incorporated. Description, Part Lot 8, Concession A. The address is northwest side of Hillside Drive, Meadow Drive in Murray Ward. And it was recommended by the applicant that application B 13-25M by Clemensic Homes Incorporated to sever a parcel of land on northwest side of Hillside Meadow Drive, Part Lot 8, Concession A, in the former township of Murray is hereby deferred pending recirculation.
I'll move.
Moved by Jim, seconded by Paul. All in favor for deferral? Thank you. Next application is minor variance application A8-24S, Gary T. Cooney. The agent is Brian Miller. Lot description is Part Lot 23, concession broken front. Civic address is 1564B, Old Highway 2 in Sydney Ward. This application was deferred at the August 8, 2024 Committee of Adjustment meeting pending the submission of a new sketch deemed acceptable by both the city and Lower Trent Conservation staff. That is prepared by an Ontario land surveyor and an amendment to the application for recirculation to the public. This has now been completed and the application is being brought forward for consideration by the committee. So the purpose of the application is to permit a reduced minimum setback of 13.9 meters from the 75.8 meters. GSC, what does that stand for?
Geodetic something.
Anyways, GSC elevation
It's
is,
the way they measure water.
okay. It must be a secret. Anyway, elevation instead of the normally required 30 meters. Any comments or concerns from the public regarding this application?
I know what it is, Geodetic Survey of Canada.
Woo. No wonder it just says GSC. Okay.
I didn't want to make you say that again.
No comments from the public regarding this application? Any comments or concerns from the committee? Have a mover and a seconder. Moved by Doug, seconded by Paul. That application A8-24S by Gary T. Cooney, Brian Miller, agent at 1564B Old Highway 2, Part Lot 23, concession broken front in the former township of Sydney is hereby approved, approved to permit a reduced minimum setback of 13.9 meters from the 75.8 meters GSC elevation instead of the normally required 30 meters. And there's one condition with that the applicant submit a septic design by a qualified designer demonstrating the ability to construct a suitable on-site sewage system for the proposed house to the satisfaction of the chief building official. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next application is minor variance application A2-25S. The owner is Ronald Douglas Prest. The lot description is Lot 32, Concession 7. The address is 349 Marsh Hill Road in Sydney Ward. This application relates to consent application 28-24S, which was approved by the Committee of Adjustment on December the 12th, 2024. And the purpose of this application is to permit the existing storage building with a front yard setback of 1.97 meters. Any comments or concerns from the public? Yes, sir.
As the owner, I guess?
Sure, yep.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Ron Prest, and concerning the property here, there's a measurement on there that it's correct, but it looks a little bit misleading on the drawing, and that's the figure of 1.97 on the detail drawing. And it can appear that it's only that 1.97 to the edge of the road allowance, but I checked with the surveyor, and he said it's actually to the edge of the property, which is not the same as the edge of the road allowance. So when you figure out the numbers there with the 11.3 and so on, I believe that it's actually 3.22 meters from the edge of the road allowance back. So it's a little further back than what it appears to me on the drawing. So I just wanted to sort of point that out.
Yeah, so your variance though goes to your property line
Yes,
that we
yes.
have to do?
Yes.
Do you mean the edge of the actual pavement? Because our road allowance butts up against there's not an intervening ownership
Well,
there.
If you look at the numbers there, like it shows the 20.1 as the road width, which I believe that's a standard 66 foot in terms of feet, a
Yep.
standard 66 foot. So divide that in half, you end up with 33 foot from the center line to the edge of the road allowance, I believe, right? But instead of that, it's showing 11.3
11.3, yeah.
on this drawing right here to the actual
Yeah.
boundary.
Yeah.
And I asked the surveyor about that, and he said that's your property line, which is not necessarily the same as the edge of the road allowance, because, well, that's what he told me.
That doesn't seem,
anyways,
doesn't seem right. I wouldn't think there'd be any intervening land between
No, I
those.
don't think so.
That's no
No,
man's
but-
land, but
at any rate,
it could
what
be
what it
like
boils
an
down to
old
is, from
system.
And I asked
Yeah.
him that question.
Yeah.
And from the center line of the road to the closest part of the shed, it's actually 43.5 feet.
Right.
So,
Okay.
So it's.
But it's also been there for 100 years,
It's been there
right?
for like 180 years, yes.
It is existing.
The impact has happened, so
Yeah,
we're
it
okay
it
with
is
that.
existing,
Yeah.
so it's not a
No.
real big deal. If you're building new, it would be,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been there for a while.
It has been there for a long time.
Yeah.
It's actually the barn that used to go up there. You see, there's a house just across the road. That was sold off by my dad a while back, but it
Yeah.
was the barn that went with that house across the road. But
Yeah.
just my only concern was that it says 1.97 there to the edge of the road allowance, but it's actually, I believe it's actually 3.22 meters instead of 1.97. And I questioned that, and that's what they told me, so. So,
Okay,
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
okay.
and if it's actually bigger, then that's fine too.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mover and a seconder, or any questions or concerns?
I'll move it.
Moved by Jim, second by David. That application A 25S by Ronald Douglas Prest at,
A2.
pardon?
You said A25, it's A2.
She's
In-
picking on, she's
in
picking
25.
on you.
What?
She's
It's
making sure you
A2.
say it right.
You said A25.
Oh,
She's picking on me.
well, I'm just blending them all together.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Application A2-25S. Owners Ronald Prest, legal description, part lot 32, concession 7, at civic address 349 Marsh Hill Road.
The decision now.
What?
You're just doing the decision. Yeah, like, yeah,
What?
yeah.
Are you sure?
Well, we're up to this. We already have a mover and
Okay.
seconder.
All right. See why she's around, right?
Am I correct, gentlemen? It was moved by Jim and seconded by David, so we're just calling
Yes.
for a motion. and
Yes.
Reading the decision.
Okay, reading's done.
No, he's-
Motion, or a vote, please. Approved? Thank you. Throwing me off. All in favor, by the way. You're going to have to send me back to school. 25 years doing this, not enough, I guess. Any other business to come before this committee? None?
Really none.
Okay.
Move
Have
to
a
adjourn.
Thank you.
And the seconder?
Seconder, want to stay here? Need a seconder? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but
David,
I'll second that.
I know, you don't.